Thanks, everyone. You are witnessing day 4 of our Please Ask campaign. I am Aniqua Acree, the founder and executive director of Journey to Self, which is a Georgia-based nonprofit, and we are focused on promoting healing and self-discovery. Our Please Ask campaign is actually a 5-day long community engagement campaign that brings awareness to childhood sexual abuse. Be sure to visit our Facebook, our Instagram, and YouTube to view all sessions and trainings. During this session, I will actually be speaking with Mars about healing from childhood sexual abuse. But before we start, please know that the information you hear may be triggering. If you and or someone you know has experienced sexual abuse, please do not hesitate to call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. And Mars, thank you so much for also, joining us on day 2 of this campaign. But for those who may be checking in a little later in the campaign, can you still go ahead and introduce yourself and share a little about who you are?
Yes. Hi. Thank you. My name is Mars, and I use he, him, or they, them. I am originally from Arkansas, but I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. I've been here for about 12 years, and I do a bunch of different things because I'm a Gemini, and it's hard for me to stay focused on one project, and I like it that way. But I'm a musician. I repair computers. I have like this project where I fix computers and give them to people in like Black and brown people in need. Um, I am a YouTuber. I'm a model. I do a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But that's
I
the
don't
gist of it.
know. I don't know if I even told you this, but I actually have you listed on Journey to Self's resource page for like
Oh,
computers and like tech repair.
oh, cool.
Yes,
Okay,
because
cool. Yeah, I didn't know.
during my IG stalking, I came across that page of yours where you were fixing computers and then giving them out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I definitely added it to the resource page.
Cool, cool.
Just
Thank
throwing that
you.
in there, right?
I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's cool.
Right. Yeah. So far during this campaign, oh my gosh, y'all, we have talked about what childhood sexual abuse is, why it is important to talk to children about childhood sexual abuse, how to even have those conversations. Um, with Mars, we dug a little deeper to talk about the effects that childhood sexual abuse has on survivors and even the role that offenders play in childhood sexual abuse. So now we're finding a way to take all of this information that we've talked about throughout the campaign and actually process it in a healing way. So, Mars, my question to you is, what does healing from childhood sexual abuse look like for you?
Um, okay. So as I mentioned in the previous day, that my childhood sexual abuse is entangled with physical abuse, neglect,
Mm.
emotional abuse as well. Um, and it wasn't it wasn't until I was 18 I kind of remembered that I was sexually abused. Like the physical abuse kept happening throughout my childhood, but the sexual abuse was just like a period of time. And that was something that I kind of just like locked away in my head, forgot about it
Mhm.
until I was 18, in psychology class in college. And um, I still didn't really have anyone to talk to at that time about it, but at least that was like the first acknowledgement of it. Like,
Yeah.
um, and it wasn't really until I moved to New York and started going to therapy.
Mhm.
um I feel like I kept having these moments like, why am I having all of this depression, all of this anxiety, all these like just like moments of frustration in relationships and friendships? And I was like,
Right.
okay, that's because there is significant damage that I need to work on. Not to say that I was damaged necessarily, because I
Right.
don't want to say that either, but just that there was a lot, I went through a lot, and I needed to like talk about it and just like
Right.
begin
Right.
the healing process. And so, yeah, that I feel like the first move I made was going to therapy and just really just getting it out of my body and talking to a
Right.
therapist. But I also was like reading some books a little bit, but then I also started going to EMDR therapy once I found out about that. Um, yeah, it was, it's been quite a journey, but that was kind of
Yeah.
like the beginning of my healing, was just like starting therapy and getting
Yes,
it out,
for
just getting
sure.
it out. Yeah.
Right, right. Talking about it, releasing that energy or that pressure that we tend to hold like in the pit of our stomach. So I
Mhm.
get that. And it's funny that you shared that because I too am just a big advocate for counseling, um, any type of outlet. Honestly, I love to uplift, but I just remembered as you were talking my very first experience with the counselor, and it was actually to like work out anger and all of these different things. And so we've had many sessions together, and I never shared like the actual sexual abuse that I experienced. And then maybe I would say maybe 4 months in of working with this counselor, I finally decided to share that part of my story with her. And it was like almost this aha moment that she had, like, now things
Yeah.
are starting to connect. And it was through counseling where I honestly started to accept the fact that a lot of who I was, a lot of what I was healing from, stemmed from that hurt and that just abandonment that I experienced at such a young age. And so this character, that developed from there, it honestly just wasn't me. It was as if the real me took this backseat like view, and
Hmm.
the functioning me, the one that was trying to just keep it together, was in full
Yes.
control. And so now I'm in this place as I heal of trying to accept, all of me, and allow the true me, the one that has been buried for so long, to take the center
Yes.
stage. So,
Yes.
yeah, counseling has definitely helped with that. I no longer have the counselor that I started off with. I actually have a new lady who I was blessed with, and it was very interesting how our paths connected. But yes, counseling
Good.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then another valuable thing, just for me personally, as I journey to healing and just being my true self overall, is that sometimes, resting is also really, really important just in the healing journey. So, do you find that at times when you're healing, when you're pouring into yourself, the best thing to do is nothing at all?
I do feel like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, even s- well, I feel like because of the pandemic, that kind
Mm,
of helped me realize like, oh, like just kind of being forced.
right.
Because at least for me, like I know some people were still working through the pandemic, but I wasn't working through
Right.
like the beginning of the pandemic. And so I was kind of like forced to just like rest. Like there's nothing, you don't go outside, like
Right.
you can't go hang out with your
My
friends.
gosh.
Like you have to just rest. And yeah, that the yeah, 2020, I was like, oh, and it kind of gave me time to like realize how I want to spend my time and
Right.
how I want to live my life and what are my values. It kind of gave me time to just gain these new insights.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it gave me time to gain these new insights, but also just physically just like pause and just like
Right.
lay down or sit down and just like relax.
Yes, for
And
sure.
so yeah, I definitely think there's value in just doing nothing. Because
Right.
I mean, we're there's so much stimulus. There's so like our phones, the internet, going outside. Like sometimes, yeah, the best thing to do is just to like be at peace and be with yourself and just like
Right.
have moments that are just quiet and just for you.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting. I knew it was important to do nothing when I was so uncomfortable doing nothing. I'm like, wait, should it be this hard to spend time with self? To like,
Yeah.
be quiet and be just intimate with myself. My mind would go to 100 different things, and just going back to counseling a little bit, realizing my need to multitask and overextend and be everything to everyone was again just a way that I was trying to cope. And
Yeah.
so I truly started to just dedicate that time to rest and to just revive myself. And as
Yes.
you brought up the pandemic, one amazing thing that I enjoyed being in the house so much was learning to meditate. And I would go and research all of these different crystals and do all of this
Mhm.
online ordering, finding these different people who would journey out and actually search for these amazing stones. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, can I get it from you? And then incorporating them in my meditation practices. So for you, Mars, as you journey, as you heal, have you discovered any new hobbies or maybe even a new belief system that aids in your healing?
Yes. So when I started my journey to like really my like self what I call my self-love journey, where I like something happened like this. I don't want to get like too into it, but like I just had like this breakthrough moment
Yeah.
that just like really opened me up and made me realize like I've been on this journey to healing, but like there's this major component missing, and that's self-love. And
Mm,
that's when I like really I did a lot of deep diving in like I was just like, okay, like if I'm gonna be like a good friend to the people around me, like I have to learn how to love myself. Like that
yeah.
has to
Yeah.
happen. Um, and so that kind of involved reading a lot of self-help books and listening to all these podcasts. And I got into meditation. This is maybe about 4 years ago or something. I got really into meditation. And yeah, I feel like I read something like I feel like before, so I grew up Catholic, but not I was never really like practicing like as an adult.
Mhm.
Um I kind of was just like not atheist, but not agnostic. I don't know. Just like I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anymore. But I do feel like a little bit more spiritual and just kind of like having this sort of like trust in like something, or is like
Right.
some like trusting the universe
Yeah.
and just kind of like recognizing that there's like energy like all around us. And I'm not like practicing anything, but I do like ever since my self-love journey, I've kind of been like kind of more attuned to like these
Right.
energies around us, and like whatever like energy I'm putting out there is going to be like reflected back to me, and just like
So
thinking
true.
about stuff like that.
Right.
um and yeah, I'm just like, yeah, it kind of like opened me up to just realize, okay, yeah, if I'm putting out like this negative energy, this like nasty energy, like it's gonna come back to me. So
Right.
yeah, I'm trying to
Yes.
like, I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. I get it. Yes. And offline, I was sharing just now about my love for having green nails, and that is somewhat of a reminder of that self-love piece, because me as well, like on this journey, I definitely realized that it's so easy for me to give love, but for whatever reason, I quickly question if I'm loved in return. And so that questioning of love is what opened my eyes to the lack of self-love, that I had inside. Because once you love yourself, once you trust yourself, once you forgive yourself and accept yourself, that's where that love comes from. And when you feel it inside, no longer do you have to question it. And so it took just some hard truths and some
Yes.
crying and just a lot of releasing and forgiving of self for me to start, this journey to continuously, because it's not something you just, okay, I get it now and it's there. It's like, no, every day.
No.
Right. Every day.
Every day, every day. A lot of
Right.
crying. Yeah.
Right, right. Like I'm daily reminding myself that I'm worthy of love and that I have it. So thank you so much just for sharing that and uplifting it, especially the energy part, because I also believe in exactly what you were saying. What we put out is what we get in. And so during this healing, I'm also trying to just gain control of my thoughts. Because
Mhm.
when I wake up and I say, oh my gosh, I'm tired, like today is probably going to be one of those days. I promise you, today would be one of those days. Like when I started to connect just like the power and the energy of words and manifesting, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it really creates your reality. Like what you
Yeah.
think and what you say,
Yeah.
you know,
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so now, anytime, because I'm not perfect, so anytime those bad thoughts or those heavy thoughts come, I'm quickly like, hold on, pause. Like, let
Yes.
me try to
Yes. Yes.
try to
Same.
listen to
Same.
something positive. Yeah. And I love that you do music. Like one thing for me on my healing journey is the power of music, just the
Yeah.
frequency of it, and how it could really like literally wake up every cell in your body. And I feel like music has definitely been a healing component for me.
Mhm.
It has allowed me to express myself in ways that is like hard to verbally say at times. So that was another amazing thing that I discovered about you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want Mars to be a part of this campaign. So, I'll talk for days, but I know that at times we all need support, no matter what type of trauma we're healing from. So, my next question, Mars, is what do you think are some ways that family, friends, maybe even our communities can start to uplift survivors and aid in healing?
Um, Good question. Um, yeah, this is something I think about a lot
Yeah.
um because I feel like so a lot of my friends and chosen family were not abused in the same way that I was.
Right.
And so like sometimes it does make me feel a little bit like an outcast. But I feel like I they all know like to some degree about my abuse.
Hmm.
Um and they're all very open to hearing about it. Um which I mean that I feel like that's maybe the first step, just like being open to like listening.
Right. Right.
Um but I think also for me, maybe I need to also define like what I need from them, like what requests I might have of them to like tell them like, okay, around the holidays things are really bad
Right.
and I need you to like check in with me,
Right. Right.
and just make sure that I'm doing okay, or like help me just like, yeah, just like whatever I feel like I need. I feel like I need to like define that and like tell them.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's important too. um
Definitely.
yeah, and yeah, I guess maybe also just doing some of the research also, like as someone who is not a survivor of child abuse or child sexual abuse, is just,
Right.
yeah, like doing a little bit of research like on your own, um so you're not
Yeah.
depending just on your friend or your loved one or whatever to like tell you to like teach you everything.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
yeah, so I feel like those are some things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
Right, right. And I actually uplift all of those examples. My number one thing, too, anytime I'm asked, oh my gosh, what can I do? And it's like, just listen.
Mm-hmm.
Just gives me the space to tell my story, especially after so many years of suppressing it, and trying to pretend, that it wasn't a part of my story. So just talking about it for me personally, I know it's not the same for everyone, but for me personally, I find healing in sharing my story.
Yeah.
So being the listening ear, with the Please Ask campaign so focused on educating the community and families on just what sexual abuse is, especially childhood sexual abuse, and how to talk to children. Researching is definitely another must do. Of course, this Please Ask campaign serves as an amazing resource, but it's still so much more to know. So I'm hoping that just ears and hearts, are beginning to open, and there's definitely this urgency that people start to feel for just diving deep in the statistics and the facts so that survivors can be supported for sure. So I appreciate that. And then it's so crazy because prior to this campaign, you and I did not know anything, about one
Yeah.
another. Right. And now we share like this bond through experience. And now it's just like, I want to see you win, and I'm sure the feeling is reciprocal. So, do you too find healing in sharing stories and having open conversations like the one we're having now?
I do. I do. It used to be scary to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, but also 4 years ago, as part of my self-love journey, or like the beginning of my self-love journey, I started attending ASCA, which is like the support group that stands for Adult Survivors of Child Abuse.
Hmm.
And a lot of the survivors, it's like a 12-step group sort of.
Yeah.
And a lot of the survivors were also sexually abused, and yeah, we would go around and like share our stories, and we have like this workbook that we would go through, and there's like all these different steps. And yeah, I was the first meeting I ever went to, I didn't participate. I just kind of like was there and I cried.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this. And then it took me like another couple of weeks before I came back. And then I stuck with it for a couple of years. Um, and yeah, it just seeing like so many different kinds of people of
Right.
many ages. I mean, there are people who are like in their 70s, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is something that's I'm going to be dealing with for a really long time.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's yeah, and like seeing people younger than me, and yeah, just like so many people are affected, and we're and the meetings were taking place over Zoom actually.
Okay.
So people were like all over the country, and like some
Right.
out of the country too. And yeah,
Wow.
it was just like it's been really interesting just hearing so many different people's stories, and stories of strength, stories of defeat, and stories of confusion and frustration. And I'm like, yeah, that
Right.
I understand that so much. And yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of power in
Yeah.
sharing and hearing from other survivors.
Definitely. It's so interesting because it seems as if anytime I do just find that level of comfort and I open up and I share my story, I either hear, "Oh my gosh, me too. I experienced this," or I hear, "Oh my gosh, my sister or my uncle," or so it's like it happens so often, too often, to so many of us. And that honestly is what motivated me to create this campaign. It's like we all somewhat are like isolated and on these individual journeys. And so to find just support and to have this reminder that you're not alone in it and that there are resources, and people out here that can just pour into you or teach you how to pour into yourself, which I think
Yeah.
is even more
Yeah.
important. So thank you so, so much, Mars, for just your support, for your willingness to share your journey with all of us. Should any of our viewers who are watching want to engage with you more, how can they find you after watching today?
I am on Instagram a lot. Um, at Dizzy, and I guess you'll have a link. You'll tag me or something in there.
Oh, yes, for
It's
sure.
my old AOL screen name from when I was a teenager, and I kind of just like clung on to that username. Yeah, Instagram, and then there's in my bio there's links to the other things that I'm involved with. But that's where you'll usually catch me.
Perfect. Yes, I will definitely be sure to tag you in this session. And before we go, I definitely want to say thank you to everyone who has journeyed with us throughout the last 4 days of this campaign. I know, y'all, that it has been some tough moments, some insightful moments, healing moments. And just a ton of educational moments. So I'm just so happy that you've hung in there. Hopefully, have taken notes and reshared any session that you found that just needed to be highlighted and needed to be spread. So please be sure to visit our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages tomorrow as we close out this campaign with our call to action. And I am just wishing all of you peace and thank you again, Mars, so much.
Of course, of course. Thank
Yes.
you.